Nigeria and Nigerians have often tried to find a series of alibis to plaster over the visible cracks of the walls of our collective memory. The result is that there is a dissonance in our definition and expression of ourselves, who we are as Nigerians, our histories, and our cultures. Where did history fall off the cracks in academia? Why did history lose its allure and attraction to students and even to teachers? What are the implications and consequences of a young generation of Nigerians today who are more or less ignorant of their history? In the absence of clear answers, Nigerians have often provided their own answers based on fables and contrived myths. As a result, you often hear Nigerians say that it is the federal government that decided to ban history from the syllabi of the universities because successive governments had performed so badly that they didn't want young Nigerians to know about their past. And as you know, there is a saying that if you want to hide an idea from a black man, the best thing to do is to put it in a book. Now, some have argued that in reality, history ceased to exist, or that history ceased to have a market value. And as such, it fell victim to the laws of supply and demand. Either way, we know that today there isn't much pride in history, and my argument is that the disruptive conversation among us as Nigerians and its lack of coherence is evidence of the price we are paying for a generation of Nigerians growing without history. The appetite to study history ended when it seemed clear that if you studied history, you would end up teaching in a secondary school and not in a bank or the NNPC, unless, of course, you had somebody who knew somebody somewhere. At a time when banks became the path to the great rush, young women in skimpy skirts and young men in bow ties stepped and kept pounding the streets in search of what the banks called deposits. This was our culture in the late 80s and the 90s. And if you were a graduate, all that young graduates wanted to do was to work in a bank. And while the banks made their money, young women would sooner than later begin to realize and to feel the pressure of being bankers and the cost of all of this on their moral integrity. Ironically, in the 80s and the 90s, the universities of Ahmadu Bello, universities of Calabar, Jos, Ife, Port Harcourt, among many others, were centers of academic excitement and excellence. As a generation of scholars turned history into one of the most exciting subjects, the social science faculties. I'm happy that my friend, Biano, is here because they were some of the leading Marxists of the time. And we all have memories of the robust ideological engagement between state and citizens, fired and guided by reputable professors and student union underlings. Professors and students filled the air with the robust analysis of what was famously referred to as the contradictions of society, class conflicts, and the conflict between the bourgeoisie and the masses, and the problems of what the social science and analysts of the time referred to as primitive accumulation. Those were the times of illusions, and they were the times of delusion, but also the times of academic grandeur. Today, times have changed. The young lecturers of yesterday and their students, activists, have all matured and become largely incorporated into the social fabric of the much-hated bourgeoisie of yesterday. Largely, yesterday's Marxists are now today's incorporated or part of the incorporated bourgeoisie. Therefore, the shouts of "Aluta continua" have been replaced by "Aluta finita." The Marxist tools of analysis of yesterday had their time and their uses because they generated class consciousness, to use the famous phrase. I wonder if today it will be safe to say that these tools of analysis have been, as the Marxists themselves used to say, consigned to the dustbin of history, or if they will ever be sharpened. And all of this has consequences for our society, because had the progression continued into political formations, we would have seen evidence in the quality of party formations. We very well know that radical politics ended with Aminu Kano. And right now, it is very difficult in terms of ideology to tell the difference of political parties. And like the Igbos will say, all lizards are on their stomach. We don't know which one has stomach ache. So the lack of ideological sharpness and accuracy suggests very clearly that it is very difficult for young people to figure out what to aspire to. Now, to say that Nigeria's political scene is a forest of chaos is to be even charitable. That we are watching the big fish consuming the small fish is not out of place as a metaphor. Today, we have no collective political memory, no thanks to the disruptive and corrosive years consumed by the military. The missing links of history have left our people vulnerable to the rapacious attacks of raw politics, which is leaving so much blood, pain, sweat, and tears in its work. The quality of our actors suggests very clearly that there are, for now, no teachers, no guardians, no mentors in our political history. The result is that we are witnessing an end to the age of innocence and the nobility of politics. This is not an inspiration, that this is not an inspiration for a younger generation of Nigerians who are likely to shun politics for the wrong reason, because they are looking at politics from the experience they are having today. So I'm making the point, therefore, that this, what we are witnessing today, is a laudable venture, because it is an attempt to take the attention of young people and the rest of us as Nigerians to the sacrifices and those who laid the foundation for where we are today. Our gathering here, therefore, is quite significant. It is not a gathering of politicians. It is a gathering to think about politics so as to inspire confidence in And this is a point I never tire of making. Because without clear thinking about politics, we are simply playing a game with no goalposts, no referees, and no linesmen or women. Even the video assistant referee is a suspect because there's likely to be no light. But if we had such a situation, it would be like watching a football match in a stadium in which only the spectators are calling for the foul or the penalties, as the case may be. It will be a game, but definitely not be football. I'm making the point, therefore, that what is going on in many parts of Africa may be passing for politics, but without a firm anchor of some kind of an ideological commitment as to the goals that have led to the formation of parties, will largely be shooting in the dark. So we at the Kukah Center are poised to help create confidence in politics, because I believe, and we believe, that the state, despite this crisis of legitimacy, it still remains the viable vehicle for the delivery of public goods. Political parties are platforms on which politicians are weaned, trained, deployed to serve the public good. We want to dredge up some of the good, the bad, and the ugly faces of our national history, so that we can have an idea of where we have come from. In the process, it is our hope that we shall see the goods that have been done, the bad, the mistakes that have been made, and then make the corrections for a greater country. Because without a proper understanding of the role and place of political parties in a democracy, we would be playing a game against the backdrop of what I've described above. We believe that no matter the energy of the young, they will not be able to do anything different from their past and present set of politicians if they see politics purely as a blood sport. Politics was not meant to be a casino machine. Politics was not meant to be a glorified Bet Niger parlor. With a proper understanding of political party and political processes, young men and young women with a vision can have a clear idea and imagination about the resources and the discipline required to participate in politics and also to form political parties. When the European Union challenged us by opening up this opportunity for us at the Kukah Center. We seized it with both hands because its significance was a source of excitement for us. The staff at the center are largely young people with a drive and ambition. This project is very important for us because it is my hope that it will be part of our learning curve, a testing ground, especially for young people, to inspire confidence in the nobility of politics. To this end, this project will benefit both our researchers, those engaged in the project, and those of us who will be consumers of this hard work. I want to end by thanking our ever-cheerful Ambassador Samuela Isopi for her enthusiasm over the work that we do at the Kukah Center. We are eternally grateful to her for her support, for her encouragement. I want to thank Laolu Oluwami, who is unofficially the Kukah Center's Ambassador Kekere to the European Union. We want to thank the EU for sending Ezrom Ajaya to be at the Kukah Center to help to oversee and guide this project. In the course of this work, he has become a key member of the Kukah Center family. He has brought enthusiasm and an added sense of professional urgency to our work, and he is the pilot of this project. We're therefore very grateful. You will see from the recommendations in this assessment that we have presented many options for political parties to examine, and I'm really very happy that the PDP and the APC have sent at the highest level of representation. We are very, very appreciative. This is the first time because, and I hope that the IPAC chairman will be here before we end, because the problem, where is he? Oh, very good, because we hope that we can seal an agreement that the big parties that have always been accused of not being at the table, because the table is full of quote-unquote people who are not so big. So really, Your Excellency, both Alhaji Makarfi and Alhaji Ganduje, thank you very much for showing up here, and the leaders of other political parties. You will see from the recommendations of this assessment that we have presented many options for consideration. And our hope and our prayer is that we at the Kukah Center are determined to become more or less the signature of what a robust engagement between the church, between the state and civil society can be. But that none of this can take place without a pretty robust intellectual analysis of what politics ought to be. Because it's only in Nigeria that people believe that once you are a governor, you're a public officer, that you have some kind of a level of knowledge that covers everything. Our hope is that we can constructively continue to engage the state by deploying analytical tools that speak about how governance can be undertaken. Because the people who draw the rules guiding football are not necessarily footballers themselves, but there needs to be rules. So my hope is that this is the beginning of a pretty long journey of collaboration and cooperation for the greatness of our country. The report has drawn not just from academic analysis, but it has a range of reviews, as you will see when you read it in summary form, of interviews with ordinary people on the streets about what they think of politics and political parties. The report has recommended the constant review of the Electoral Act, because this must be a work in progress. I just Detour. Last week, my nephew was traveling from Sokoto, and he got into a taxi. And then he said, they got to a point, and the taxi driver said, he's hearing a sound from the engine, and he needs to stop and check. And he stopped. And exactly where he stopped, about 4 or 5 men came out. They had an arrangement, and they just took all of them into the bush. Luckily for him, he had his phone with him. They said they wanted a minimum of 500,000 naira, and well, they looked at his phone, looked at his account, and found he had over 500,000 naira. They took everything from his account and handed his phone back to him. I said, what about your colleague? He said they didn't have up to 500, so they are still being held. But then I asked him, I said, I thought, okay, very good. where did you enter the taxi? He told me. But then I now say, well, maybe looking back, the lesson you learn now is next time you are entering a taxi, maybe take the picture of the plate number and send it to somebody related to you. So if anything happens, you can at least begin to trace something. The point I'm making is that we will never see the end of what free, fair, and credible elections are, because every initiative is a work in progress. We use yesterday's mistakes to correct today. And therefore, we must develop the confidence in the political process, in spite of the actors, that when we make corrections today, tomorrow other problems are going to emerge. So I want to thank all those who worked on this report. In particular, I want to thank Father Barkindo, who is the leader of the team at the center, and with him, the center, of course, and his vision is in safe hands. And to all of you on this occasion, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, I think, is ably represented, the INEC chairman, Engineer Yusuf Yabagi, the IPAC chairman, and other distinguished members of civil society. Ambassador Leonardo Simao, we want to thank you very much. You were here before most of us. And to, once again, the chairman of the APC and the former chairman of PDP and other chairmen of parties, we're very deeply appreciative. To all who worked on this project, staff, consultants, we are grateful. It is our hope that this briefing will serve only as a mere paragraph in a volume of work on political parties, because the challenges are ahead of us. Once again, thank you very much, and God bless you.